If you've ever bought or sold a car, chances are you've used CarSales. Our guest today is Car Group CEO Cam McIntyre. Cam has been the CEO since 2007. CarSales, as it was back then, came on the market in 2009 at $3.50 a share. Today, its share price sits at over $34 a share with a market cap of close to $13 billion. Car Group is a dominant marketplace business and one of Australia's great corporate success stories. In this interview, we dive deep into the business model of Car Group. We talk about overseas expansion and, importantly, the company's culture. Cam's a really engaging person and I enjoyed this one, and I hope you do too. Cam, what car do you drive?
I got a couple. My favourite car is it's a Ram. So I don't know if you know what a Ram is. A Ram's a big truck, and it's a TRX Ram, 1500 TRX Ram. So it's got a supercharged V8 in it, and it does about 703 horsepower. So it's so cool. It's a lot of fun to drive. I mean, it's a petrol guzzler, admittedly, and it's not great for the environment, but it's cool. It's fun.
Well, luckily this is not the Australian Ethical Investors podcast. What was your first car?
It was actually a Ford Escort. It was an XL 1976 Ford Escort, probably 60 horsepower with a 1.6 litre engine in it. So, and it was, I mean, they were so simple in those days. I could pull the engine apart myself and put it back together, but wouldn't try that today on a truck.
Fantastic. And look, asking for a friend, how much can I get for a used Tesla now?
Well, so they're all pretty similarly priced. So if you're looking at offloading or buying a 2022, 2023 model S or Y, you're probably looking somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000, but it just depends on the case on the car.
So Owen, if you're listening to this, look, he's ever since the Musk and Doge, et cetera, in the US, he's felt a bit self-conscious driving around in a Tesla. So 40 to 60, Owen. There you go. Cam, let's go back to the start of your career.
Yep.
Prior to Car Group, you actually had quite a few different roles in different industries. We're talking British American Tobacco, LOreal, then with Telstra and Census. How does that come about?
So from manufacturing into services, I think a bit of it comes down to luck and opportunities that present themselves. I think a lot of it comes down to hard work and putting yourself in the right position. But I think there's a learning mindset in all of that. But it's also life's short, right? I mean, we gotta make the most of the time that we've got. It's funny. Every now and again I get a book sent to me at my office. Some guy's just written a book, and he'll send me a copy of his book. And I got one last week, and it's a slight distraction. But
you are now going to get more books. You know this.
Possibly. Anyway, this book was actually a really good book. It was about this former SAS soldier, and he'd written the book, and it was about how he pushed himself, and he went to Iraq and did a whole bunch of stuff. But that's not the point. The point was there was this really cool quote in it, and it sort of stuck with me when I read it over the weekend. And it was, I don't know if did you ever watch The Gladiator? Yeah.
The film.
The movie, yeah. So the emperor at the start of The Gladiator, his name's Marcus Aurelius, probably the most famous Roman emperor of all time. Anyway, so the quote was, do not act as though you have 10,000 years to live. Death stands at your elbow, right? So, I mean, my takeout on that was, look, don't muck around with things because someone will chop your head off. But that was one take. The other take was, we only have one life. We only have one career. Just take advantage of the opportunities that get presented to yourself. And I think for me, that was probably the key takeaway in terms of those career movements is as those opportunities have popped up, I've just jumped on them.
Can you tell us a bit about your work at LOreal? Because I think that's a really fascinating business.
Yeah. I mean, LOreal is an amazing company. It's probably it's one of the largest companies in France. I mean, that's a long time ago. And so in that business, I was a manufacturing accountant, right? So we had a factory here, and it was in a suburb called, was near Brighton anyway, down that way. And it was a fascinating job, and one that not too many people get to do these days because there's not so much manufacturing here. But to just work with production engineers and chemists and purchasing guys to build bills of material and look at the way products manufactured and costed and so on. It was super cool. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But L'Oreal was a challenging business because everything was in French. So, if you spoke French, which I spoke a little bit of French, it was fantastic. But if you didn't speak French, it was much harder.
Can you still speak French?
Un peu.
I can gesture in French.
Yeah.
Let's jump forward now.
Yeah.
And you move from the census at Telstra to Car Group. Now, I love the story that you tell, because I've listened to one or two podcasts that you've appeared on about your time at Harvard. You're at a lecture and someone asked the lecturer for some life advice, and he just simply said, do something cool.
Yeah.
And that really was the seed that helped you make that switch from the big titan that was Telstra to this essentially a startup that is Car Group.
Yeah, no, Census was probably doing about $2 billion of turnover and CarSales was doing about $30 million.
I'm also wary that we might actually have some listeners that don't know what Census is.
Oh, okay, yeah. So these are young listeners.
Well, there may be.
Yeah.
I had to scratch my head when I remembered Census, and I was like, oh, white pages.
Yeah, so they used to do these things called yellow pages and white pages, and they had a bunch of other things too. We had a business called City Search, which we used to call the search and search again engine. But it was a fantastic business. It was probably one of the jewels in the crown of Telstra, and they moved from being a print-based business to try and evolve into a digital business. So effectively, you could search for removalists and hairdressers and so on in the online space. So it was a great company. It went through a strategic pivot that didn't quite go the way it should have. But look, I was lucky enough. I got approached to move across to CarSales in the day, and I'd just come from Harvard. And John Cotter, who was a guy who said that, he wrote the book on change management. He said, "Look, life is short. Do something cool." And for me, it was, look, this is my opportunity to do something really cool. We were looking to IPO the company. We had probably one of the best media boards in Australia, and it was a great way to learn. So again, back to opportunities, right? Take the opportunities that are dealt to you. And so, yeah, never looked back. It was fantastic, a startup at the time, and we sort of still try and imagine ourselves as a bit of a startup, but at a much, much larger scale these days.
Do you remember, I just want to double click on that, take the opportunities. Do you remember when you were taking those opportunities, how you thought about the potential risks and those trade-offs going from somewhere where you're probably very comfortable, et cetera, into these leaps into the unknown? Can you recall any way that you processed those risks?
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act, right? And I think, and we probably all do similar things. You sort of write down the
pros and cons.
The pros and cons, right? You have a list of pros and a list of cons, and hopefully your list of pros are larger than your list of cons. And I do something similar. But I guess the thing I'm also thinking about is the long term, the vision, the strategy. Where in those businesses, where are things heading longer term, and disruption and all those sorts of things, innovation. And CarSales was an amazing business to be a part of. And I mean, life is short, and it was a tiny little business operating out of a shop front in Oakley, as opposed to a big business in Exhibition Street. But one of the best calls I've ever made. So
it's worked out all right.
It's worked out okay. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Car Group right now. If I was just to ask you straight up, how does Car Group make money?
Yep. So a car. Well, let me start the start. So I mean, Car Group. People know it as CarSales here, and we are what we call a multi-vertical marketplace business. So we have cars. We sell cars called CarSales. We have bike sales, selling motorbikes. Boat sales, selling boats. So we're a multi-vertical business, but most people know us as CarSales. So what we do, our role in life is to make buying and selling a great experience for our customers and our consumers. So what we do is we help our customers sell their vehicles, and we try and do that in a way that gets them their vehicles sold expediently and at a price that they're hopefully reasonably happy with. So we provide lots of pricing data and so on. We make money doing that. We also help our customers buy cars as well. So people are wanting to buy cars, we will put them on the platform and connect them with people that want to sell cars, maybe wholesale cars. We also do things like look at data, so pricing data. So imagine where the stock market for pricing and vehicle specifications. We have all that data, and that data is important to people. We also have relationships with car companies and finance companies and insurance companies that want to meet people that are potentially buyers of their products or their services. So, and we monetize that. So there's probably 4 streams. And so we would call it private seller, dealer, data, and media, the 4 parts of the business that we make money from. But it depends on the part of the world too that you're talking about, because we do different things in different parts of the world. But just in Australia, that's what we would do.
And we'll get into the global side of things, because it's right. I find that quite interesting how you're developing products in-house here for the Australian market and whatnot, and then also making sure that they work and then rolling them out, of course, and adding value to these acquisitions that you've bought. But we'll come back to that. Okay. As an investor who is looking at an online classifieds business for the first time, it could be yourselves. Yep. We've got a few other relatively well-known online classifieds businesses here in Australia. What kind of key criteria should they be looking at? And are there a few dot points that you'd boil your focus down to?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is we're an investor in online classifieds businesses as well. I mean, we've invested in companies around the world. So I can sort of relate to this question from a corporate perspective as well. But the things that we would look at would be, I'd start with the strategy of the business. So, pick up on what's the strategy of the business look like? Where are they heading? Does the strategy of the company align with my own strategic expectations as an investor? We look at the talent on the ground. A little bit harder for a retail investor to get a good sense of that. But talent is also important. So tenure, capability, and just alignment from a cultural perspective is really important to us. We look at the opportunity in the marketplace itself. So if you think about some of the markets that we've invested in, they're much larger than the Australian market. So we're looking at the size of the market. We call it the TAM. So we're looking at the TAM.
Which is total addressable market.
Exactly right. And is there a big opportunity there? We'll look at things like customer penetration rates and so on. Other things that you could, as a retail investor, see would be things like inventory levels. And so how much inventory do we carry? How much traffic do we have? And they're good indications of the size of the organisation relative to its competitive set.
When you're talking about inventory, you're talking about the sheer number of vehicles for sale on the platform.
Yeah. So we have about 232,000 cars on CarSales today. So what inventory is interesting. It on its own is not compelling because it's about the throughput on the site. So how many are coming on and off? If you're just looking at a particular point in time, it's interesting, not compelling. But so we would look at all of those things, and we're also looking at the growth of the business in terms of its financial performance and where it's heading. So. That would be the things I would sort of look at. Some easy to find if you're a retail investor, some a little bit harder, but that's how we would judge it.
Fair enough. I just want to double click, just touch on, what do you think Car Group's competitive advantage is as a whole in that marketplace environment?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, clearly we had a first mover advantage many years ago. So we had
there was a lot of competitors many years ago. You had Trading Post, and you had just actual classifieds.
Yeah, no, there was. I mean, there was a lot of print media in those days as well that were our major competitors. So The Age was the big one, but. I think from our perspective, the competitive advantage was that we had connectivity with our core customer, being our dealers, and so we could integrate our platform with their inventory, so we could provide an ability to publish in a digital environment. And so the audience moved from being largely city-based, the Melbourne Age or the Sydney Morning Herald or wherever the cars are being published, into being a national audience. And that was sort of helpful in the beginning. But I'd say competitive advantage changes over time, right? I mean, so you don't have a competitive advantage that just sort of sticks. As a business, particularly in digital, you need to be constantly innovating and developing new capabilities to maintain your competitive advantage, right? I mean, we talk now about artificial intelligence and how does that sort of play out longer term. So are we integrating AI into our platform? Are we thinking about the things that our customers want that are harder for people to replicate? They're the things that maintain your competitive advantage that we're working on all the time too.
And continuously making it a seamless experience for both seller and buyer, because if I look at it now, and I couldn't believe this when I was looking at potential competition, but people are selling cars on Facebook Marketplace, for example. And I know from just reading Reddit and things like that, people are actually going there and putting a car on Facebook Marketplace and CarSales. Then seeing which one moves first and just taking down the other. But you've got to compete for that convenience, because the issue, of course, with something like Facebook Marketplace is dealing with the great unwashed, so to speak. You've got a lot of people, maybe non-genuine buyers. But so your competition there is just saying, hey, it's so much easier with us that you shouldn't even bother with that hassle.
Yeah, so for us, the way we have to think about it is what's important to our customers. So, the big issues for people when it comes to buying and selling a car, let's say, it's the second most valuable asset that people have. And so there's always a lot of risk in that process. There's a lot of scammers, right? I mean, there's buy side and sell side fraud. There's identity theft that happens. And so as a business, we have to focus on how do we keep our environment free as much as we can possibly make it. And it's an arms race of scam and fraud so that people can buy and sell with great confidence as opposed to not. And so what we think about the technology side of things around how we can keep the bad guys away, keep our customers protected. And as you said it, and you said it perfectly, I mean, we're focused on removing friction in that buy and sell process. So how do we make it easy for our customers to transact? So the sorts of things that we think about are, payments. I don't know if you've ever bought a car privately, but that moment where you're standing on someone's driveway and, it's a Saturday, and you've had to put money in their bank account and it's had to be there on Friday, but you haven't got the car yet, and you're there and you're looking at the car for the first time, you're just hoping that it's everything you want it to be. That's a big deal for people.
There's a lot of trust built into that transaction.
There's a lot of trust. And so we can improve that process by digitizing it, and we call it C2C payments. And so it makes it frictionless. So people can just, transfer on the driveway, transfer money from buyer to seller hands over the keys, and everyone's happy. And then there's the other friction point when you drive the car away. I mean, 9 out of 10 people would drive the car away and not have insurance. So you're driving the car home uninsured. How do you remove those sorts of friction points? So they're the things that we're trying to solve for our customers. Registration transfers, all those sorts of things that are problematic and and challenges for people.
And just painful, just annoying.
Just painful, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally annoying.
And can I just ask how much that payments thing, so that's a value-added service that you guys offer. Roughly, is it a percentage of the sale? Is it a straight up like transaction fee, or what is the?
No, we don't charge for it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, no, we don't charge for it. I mean, like I said, our job in life is to help people buy and sell and remove those friction points, and we see this as a friction point. And so, as a business, it's there to give people that frictionless experience. And until we've given people a result, I mean, we haven't done our job. So that's all part of the package.
Okay, that's fantastic. So that, that's part of the moat that you're building against the competitors. You can go and do this for a bit cheaper. However, there's this risk, there's hassles, there's time, etc. Let's talk about your expansions overseas now. It's become a bit of a cliche, and I think a pretty tired one personally, about Australian businesses expanding overseas and failing. Yep. That used to be the case. Now it's, we're getting better and better at it. We're learning from our mistakes. But of course, still even some online classifieds businesses have had struggles doing that. What's made it work for you guys? What's been different about how you've approached this going internationally?
Yeah, I mean, we've approached it with a lot of caution to start with. We don't want to ever destroy shareholder value, and we know that if you do a transaction anywhere and it's successful, you get a license, and that license is good until you do your next transaction, and if it's no good, you lose your license. So for us, it's really important that every transaction that we do works for us and our shareholders. So
by license, you mean that license of confidence from the shareholders to say, okay, that worked, you can do it again.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
We're talking about driving, we're talking about cars.
Exactly. It's all the same. No, look, I mean, so our approach is with caution. So if it's a new geography, what we would do, and we've done this in Brazil, in South Korea, in the United States, is we don't know the market. We study the market. We have a good understanding of TAM, where our opportunities are for IP and technology delivery and so on, and how we can really build it into something great. But we're not on the ground. So what we would always prefer to do is to take a minority position in that business. So you start off with a small stake, and you try and incorporate puts and call options or rights of first or last refusal and so on, and give yourself the opportunity to take control down the track. Once you've learned the business, you understand the people, you understand where the company's heading, and you know exactly where your alignment's going to be. So we start with a minority position in markets where we know we can deploy intellectual property and or technology. So these tend to be markets that are big. So the United States or Brazil. I mean, Brazil is one of the largest car markets in the world. South Korea. But in each of those companies and countries, we've had the opportunity to deploy IP and tech. So it's not just about bringing a check, it's about being able to do that. It's also about looking at the size of the prize. So, if we're going to invest shareholder money into this, what does that sort of look like in terms of returns to shareholders? So they're the sorts of things that we've looked at, and that recipe's been successful for us so far.
I'm completely uneducated when it comes to, believe it or not, the Brazilian car market.
Yep.
Why is the Brazilian market largest in the world?
No, it's not the largest.
No, sorry, the most.
It's one of the largest car markets in the world because population is large and because it's an emerging economy. So people are moving out of motorcycles into car purchases. So it's just.
And that public transport infrastructure is probably not where it needs to be to move that volume of people. So if you want to get around somewhere in Brazil, you need a car.
You need a car. And you need a car for multiple reasons. There's security issues. So, when people buy cars here, they'll go and get their cars window tinted or they'll get paint protection. In Brazil, one of the most popular forms of aftermarket is bulletproofing of cars.
Is that a vertical integration you could go into?
We could, but we will never do that. But there is a safety issue. So, but it's a very large car market. Sao Paulo, which is the largest city in Brazil, has the same population pretty much as Australia does. So, very, very large car market. So for us, going there was great because people were still moving into digital environments. Our core customers were still moving into digital advertising. We have a great partner there, which is Santander, the bank. So we have great finance integrations with them, and it's grown very, very successfully for us as all things have evolved over the last sort of 13 years.
When you do move into these markets, are you always looking at the dominant market player? Because when I think, and maybe this is just my Australian mindset, when I think about these marketplace businesses, I think there is almost a winner-take-all factor to it, because you are just going to go to the more cars you have on platform, the more customers, eyeballs you're going to get on you. The more eyeballs you get on you, the more cars that are going to be on your platform.
Yeah,
is that what you look for? Is it always the most dominant?
Yeah, no. You've studied us well. That is absolutely another factor that we look at. It's that virtuous cycle of he who has the most things normally attracts the most eyeballs. Attract more things. So it is in these digital marketplaces. It can be often a winner take all. And so as a business, we will always focus on number one players in those markets if it's to partner with or acquire, and less so number twos unless they're close.
There's a really compelling reason.
Exactly.
Because of that, is price something that you're incredibly sensitive out of paying? Because you're not going to get the number one dominant player cheaply.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You pay a premium for quality assets. That's an absolute fact. So, yes, we are clearly price sensitive as a business, but we're also thinking about the value that we're going to add, because it's not the price or the value that we pay today. It's what's this thing going to be worth in 5 to 10 years' time. And if I think about all the businesses that we've acquired, the value that we've created over the journey is significant. So absolutely price is important. Earnings per share accretion is absolutely important. But it's where do we think we're going to be able to take this thing and how much value are we going to be able to create over the course of the next several years.
And generally speaking, do you keep the management teams in place? Do you essentially let the players play?
Yeah, so our approach to all of these businesses is we're not arrogant enough to think that everything we've done in Australia should be what we roll out everywhere else in the world. Our philosophy is every country is at a different stage of their digital evolution. Cultures are different, languages are different, approaches to buying and selling is different, and we need to be sensitive to that. So local management is clearly going to be the most in tune with that. And so what we tend to do is we'll sit down with them and go, right, so where's the requirements around, technology? So do we need to deploy platforms so we can deploy platforms? Do we need to deploy services, whether it's services like search capabilities and other things, or services like we talked about, payments? Or is it just intellectual property? We've been in these markets for 20 plus years. If you do that, we've seen this happen here. Maybe don't do it that way, do it this way. And so local management is what we try and protect, and we will plug into that and really try and collaborate with them to create something great.
And just to give shareholders, prospective shareholders, an idea, if you think about CarSales here domestically, you kind of think of a bit of a fairly mature business, I would think. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
How important to the future growth of Car Group are these international acquisitions?
Yeah, they're important because in Australia, we might sell 1 million new cars and might do 3 million used cars a year. I mean, that's a fraction of what some of these other markets will do. So just by virtue of scale, being able to take what we do into offshore markets gives us real exposure to growing. And case in point, I mean, the Australian business represents about 40% of our business today, and it's a good growing business too. But these other businesses are just growing so much quicker. So, in terms of scaling the organisation, offshore markets are important, but they aren't the be all and end all, because as an organisation we have a huge pipeline of initiatives and innovation, things that we need to get to. And we also don't want to stretch ourselves too thin, right? Because that's when you start to make mistakes. So we're very conscious of all of the above, and it's opportunities don't always arise when you necessarily want them to. So it's scale, size of the prize, and how we get there that is important.
If someone was looking at an acquisition in the future, and they go, "Geez, Cam and the team are going off the rails. What have you bought? What's something that you, generally speaking, just we would never see you do?"
Yeah, I mean, we do vehicles. So vehicles are what we do well. Now, whether that's cars, boats, bikes, I mean, they're vehicles. We've tried other verticals before, and the business is a highly innovative business. So we never want to die wondering about things. So we've tried things like general classifieds and other things. But, ultimately, unless you have the ability to create a competitive advantage, you just don't go there. So you'll always see us in vehicles. Don't expect anytime soon to see us in, real estate or jobs.
Right. Let's now bring it back to the office here in Melbourne. If I was to walk around the Car Group office over in sunny Cremorne and speak to any employee, what are the top 3 things that you think they would say to me if I asked them about the culture of the business?
Okay. I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, we've just recently, actually in the last month, we've relaunched our 3-year strategy, and we do it for the whole organisation. So there's a bit of a roadshow, and we gather the troops and go through where we're heading over the next 3 years. The precursor to that is we do things like surveys, and we'll survey the team. And so we did a survey late last year. It would have been maybe November, and about what they thought were the words that describe the culture of their business in their country. And when I look at those word clouds, the word clouds, and the biggest word is the one that means the most. And so the words would be innovation and innovative, common thread throughout the whole organisation, no matter the company. It would be collaboration. It would be growth, and it would be progressive. Would be probably, if there was 4 words that described us, they would be probably the 4 largest ways that people would think about the culture of the organisation. And
so without being able to physically walk into your premise, because I'm sure we'd get turfed out, or as we've heard today, though, some people do walk in thinking it's a car lot. So how would outsiders get a glimpse of that culture?
Yeah, I mean, they can listen to your podcast for starters, and hopefully we're giving them a sense through this discussion. But I think, the best ways would be annual report, clearly, or the ESG report would be another one. You could look at third-party websites like Glassdoor, which rates companies. Former employees will rate companies and talk about the culture of the organisation. A Great Place to Work is another place to look at that. We're a Great Place to Work accredited business, as are nearly all of our businesses around the world. And probably another place would be LinkedIn, or so there's some pretty cool third-party websites that would also give you a sense of individuals talking about the culture of the company. So I'd look there.
How does a dominant business domestically here in Australia not become lazy when it comes to innovation? How do you not sit back and pat yourselves on the back and say, "Rightio, fellas, job done"? The classifieds business it's an old business model, very, very old. So how do you continue to add value and get innovation from your team? How do you foster that environment?
Yeah, I think one word that's also part of our culture that I didn't talk to is paranoid. If you think about our heritage, we disrupted print advertising many, many years ago. And so culturally, we never want to see what we did to others happen to us. So as a business, we're attuned to what's going on in the marketplace and the world, but structurally, we facilitate that a bunch of different ways. But I'd say the first thing would be that as a business, we're focused on how do we make constant change to what we're doing. So when I think about growth and the way the business grows and the way we protect ourselves, it's making 101% changes all the time. It's about constantly changing and evolving your capability and your platform. It's about also thinking about new product that you can bring to widen your moat, deepen your moat, create more value for your customer. And so things like, we talked about payments before, that's one, but there's many, many. We also have to think as an organisation, not just about where that disruption is going to come from your immediate competitors, because we can see who they are. So we'd call them Horizon 1 competitors, but it's the ones that you don't see coming that are the potential ones to disrupt you. So as a business, we need to stay focused on that. And we do that a bunch of different ways as well. So we're always looking over the horizon with what's coming, and AI and other things, we have a sense of that too, and making sure that as an organisation, we're in the right place at the right time. So there's those things, and then we do other things that encourage innovation organically, like hackathons and so on, that just keep people in the right mindset for constant change and innovation.
Keep people engaged as well.
Totally, yeah.
And what does a pat on the back look like at Car Group if someone's done a good job?
Yeah, I mean, a pat on the back will look like thank you. We tend to be a business that doesn't tend to stop and smell the roses too much. It's right. Okay, you've done that. What's next? What's next? What's next? We're always execution focused, but I'd say also, as an organisation, there's plenty of people that have created some real value in the business, and they've done well for themselves in terms of where they now are in the organisation. But the ultimate pat on the back is, the total shareholder returns that we generate ultimately, or our earnings and revenue growth. So they tend to be the things that we'd focus on the most.
Employees, is there or has there been in the past like an employee share
great
program?
Yeah, so there is. There's one in Australia, but we want to have a global one. So we're actually in the process of putting one together, which we hope to launch at some stage over the next short to medium term, because for us it's important to have that engagement with our staff, and clearly that is another opportunity for pats on the back.
Fantastic. Let's take a step back now. I'm conscious of your time. We've been going for a little while, but I want to talk about some things that shareholders might want to hear about at the moment. Yep. Relatively recently, you became a director of Brambles. Car Group itself is ASX 50.
Yep.
So, you're operating in multiple jurisdictions. I'm sure it takes up a lot of your time.
Yep.
How do you find the time to carve out being a director as well for another ASX 50 business?
Yeah. No, look, it's fantastic. I mean, as I said earlier, I've been at CarSales now for 18 years, and I know the way our business operates intimately. I know the way our governance works, etc. And so, I mean, from my perspective, being a non-executive director on another board, the insight, the learning, the reflection, being able to see things from a different perspective has been totally invaluable. And it's helped me think about things in the Car Group business that we should be thinking about, that we may not have been giving enough attention to. So that's been a great learning for me, and I do it in my own time too. I don't do Brambles on CarSales time or Car Group time. I do it on my own time, and then I think from the Brambles perspective, clearly that business it's a great business, one of Australia's great businesses, and they're on a journey too, and clearly the skills that we have or that I have are quite helpful in terms of where that business wants to go. So there's great synergy between the two, but for me, it's been an excellent experience in bringing value back to my day-to-day business.
Yeah, fantastic. I was going to ask what value, maybe it's a bit too early still in that journey, because it's been about 6 months or so.
Yep.
But what have you brought back from Brambles, or a manufacturer of pallets? Most people wouldn't put pallets and online digital marketplaces together.
Yeah, no, I guess, Brambles is in 60 countries. We're in probably 10. So just the exposure to, again, different countries and how they work has been interesting. The way they think about governance and particular elements of governance, there are similarities and differences, and being able to take those differences and bring them back into our business and help our business step up in particular ways has been really quite important. So, as you say, it's 6 months in, but I'm really enjoying it. It's been excellent.
Let's do a little bit of crystal ball gazing.
Yep.
Your career has essentially been at Car Group, started with disruption. There is disruption potentially on the horizon. Again, it might be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but it's there. It's present in people's thought processes at the moment when I'm talking about autonomous vehicles. What are the threats and opportunities that you and your team sit around and discuss when that comes up?
Yeah, ever since I've been in the business 18 years, there's always threats and opportunities. I guess sort of where we are today, that could come from multiple different places. You talked about autonomous vehicles. I guess our thinking around autonomous vehicles would be, there's different ways to think about it, but those autonomous vehicles still need to be bought and sold at some point, right? So so that's a good opportunity for marketplaces. I guess as individuals, would we still potentially own autonomous vehicles? Well, I, for one, most certainly would, just because I like the convenience of having my own vehicle. It doesn't mean to say that, I would necessarily drive it all the time. What I might do is I might put it on a platform, like an Uber platform. It drops me to work and it's on an Uber platform and driving around making money for me all day, and then picks me up and takes me home again. What that would mean is me, rather than doing probably 5,000 to 10,000 kilometres a year, I might be doing 50,000 kilometres a year with that car. I'm still going to sell it, and I'm going to sell it probably faster, because as an individual, I'm conscious of warranties, I'm conscious of kilometres, and I'm also conscious of features. Cars change, and you look at the car of today versus the Ford Escort I talked about. It's very, very different. And as individuals, you're always wanting the latest and greatest in sort of technology and so on. So I think autonomous vehicles could be an opportunity, it could be a threat. It's about waiting and seeing, but also being prepared to act either way as an organisation. But there's plenty of examples, and autonomous vehicles, is sort of one. But
it's I think it comes back to that culture of innovation and happy to take small amounts of risk, put small amounts of capital behind an idea. Nothing that's going to, of course, dent the business or significantly impact the return for shareholders, but you're sowing the seeds for a prospective new vertical integration in the future.
100%. And back to autonomous vehicles, that's exactly what we did. So, coming out of COVID, we launched a business called Placey, and that business, we launched that because we saw the way people were consuming travel, and we thought there might be an opportunity to aggregate travel. And so what we did was we took the likes of DD or the ride sharing platforms, except for Uber, all the taxi companies, or most of them, we put them together on a platform with public transport and so on, and facilitated the ability for consumers to optimize their trips and find the cheapest fares and all the rest of it. So we tested and learned and evolved and understood, how a market like that might evolve, and we tipped a little bit of money into it. We sort of talk about it in the context of, we fed it a little bit to see how it would grow.
What does a little bit look like?
Oh, not much at all. I mean, so little that it wouldn't even feature in any of our numbers really. So, so it's about testing and learning. And if that business grew or hit expectations, then we would keep feeding it,
then you
keep
feed
growing
it more.
Exactly. So it didn't hit expectations, so we shut it down, and we shut it down quickly. But it's that culture of innovation that you never want to die wondering. And, if you're not doing enough testing and learning, you're not trying hard enough. So, and as an organisation, we've got plenty of examples of that over my history where we've tried different things and it hasn't worked, but we've learned heaps.
Right, we'll get on to now two final questions. One that Owen asks of every guest the first time they're on the show, and something that I just throw in there as well because he's not here.
Okay, cool.
If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something about life, business, investing, anything, what would it be?
Great question. Well, we've done one of them already, so I won't do that. But look, the one I always think a lot about, and it sort of fits in with the conversation we've probably just had around innovation and so on, would be, you can be the best thinker, you can have the best strategy, but if you can't execute, you're in a world of pain. So what I would say to myself is vision without execution is hallucination. And, as a business leader, sure, you need to be focused on where the company is heading and how you differentiate yourself, but you've also got to be focused on the execution side of that and making it a success. Without that, things just don't fly. And
finally, we're off to lunch. The out of office is on. We're not going back to the office.
Okay.
Where are we going?
Well, are you paying or am I paying?
It's the fictional Rask Group card. It's got a big budget.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Look, if it's a Friday afternoon in springtime and it's a sunny day, and clearly we're in Melbourne, so it would probably be the Botanical Hotel, which is on Domain Road in South Yarra, just because it's opposite the park. It's a great setting, plenty of people around, and the food's great. Otherwise, it might be the Mount Erica Hotel. Mount Erica Hotel is in Armidale, and that's a great spot too for a really good long lunch, if that's what we're up to.
That is what we're up to.
So they're both pubs, but right. That would be it.
Fantastic. I don't think I've been to either. So
opportunity,
absolutely. Cam, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us. This has been a fantastic chat, and hopefully we can catch you again soon.
No, thank you. Great questions.
Cheers.
No worries.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.